Lucky you folks had reservations. You would have never found the seat in this place otherwise.
Okay, you're live.
Okay, thank you. I will call this Board of Aldermen budget workshop to order. Would you kindly stand and join us in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You know, it's funny, I thought it was 7 o'clock, I thought the Teresa mentioned she told me 6.
Yeah, okay, the roll call, let the roll show that all aldermen are present except for Alderman Lorenzo Durante, who's away on business. The budget readings, workshops as we go through, I outlined a general description of the direction we'll take. We'll start with the discussion of revaluation and its impact on the taxpayers, and the review of the revenues, and then we go into review of the expenditures, then go into the review of the capital projects. And this will take multiple meetings, and we'll start and stop wherever we conclude that particular evening and pick up the next night where we left off. And then the last meeting will be a special meeting to adopt the budget on May 26th. Before getting into that, everybody's aware, I just want to be sure that section 7, the city charter, chapter 7, deals with the budget setting process. And I'm sure you're all aware by now that the Board of Apportionment and Taxation, well, I don't have the minutes of their meeting. I asked for them so that you could all have them and be sure that you know what they did. But I'm told that they have forwarded the budget, the mayor's budget to us. So we're starting to work, and we'll be working off the mayor's budget. And you've got tonight a copy of a new list of all the budget with, it starts there, and not much room to write on it, but nevertheless. But I do want to make you aware of one thing, that while it seems like it's on target, the per the charter, the mayor does have the power to veto whatever we do. And veto is not something that goes well for running the city, because it requires then for us to override, and it requires then for us to, for him, everybody has to stop what they're doing and go in a different direction. It's just time consuming, and they'll never get the tax bills out in time. So given that, we've always tried to have the mayor on board with our decision before, as we go along, keep them advised, and I'll do that. The first thing we're going to talk about is the revaluation. You probably, I got a call from one taxpayer, and I don't know if anybody else got a call, but he said to me, based on the mayor's budget, the was originally, the budget from last year, the mill rate was 22.03 mils. And the mayor's budget resulted in 17.47 mils. So he said, based on that, he figured out his based on his that and his new valuation. He said he's going to be paying a lot more in taxes. So I said, well, let me go back and do some snooping. So I got a hold of Paul Hiller. And I said, well, first thing, I want the assessor here for this meeting to tell us and give us some background on the revaluation process and how it came about, you know. But the revaluation must have been too much for the tax assessor because he's on vacation. He won't be back. He might be back before we finish, but he isn't available tonight. So Paul and I are going to take a shot at what we were able to review. First of all, the revaluation is set in state statutes. Every single detail. There's nothing that's left to go in a different way, but it's all set up there. And essentially, it boils down to developing what's called the grand list. The grand list is the compilation of everybody's assessed values and into what's called the grand list. The grand list is made up essentially of the residential side and the commercial side. I'm not sure what constitutes the commercial side, if it includes industry beyond just like commercial businesses. You know, Paul?
What was that, John?
Hey, I'm not sure what constitutes the commercial side of the tax list.
Let me give you some figures on that. The residential side, first off, the grand list is for discussion purposes, basically $6 billion. That's where we sit. The residential side of that 6 billion is almost exactly 4 billion. So 2/3 of our properties are residential. There has been a significant increase on the automotive side, which is another part. And we all pay car taxes, and that has gone up.
Paul, hold on a minute. Paul, hold on a minute.
Sure.
The delay caused some difficulty. You're beginning to expound beyond that which I asked you. What I asked you was what constitutes the commercial side. Give me that answer and stop there if you will. What constitutes the commercial side?
The commercial side is, frankly, the commercial and industrial properties in the city. That's it.
Okay.
The residential side does include apartments.
All right.
Condominiums.
Now, you can come back later. I'll let you come back later and you can give us the information that you were giving us about how much is of the grand list constitutes each side. But essentially, and historically in Shelton, over the last 4 reevaluations, last 4 times that they're done, they used to be done every 10 years, and then they switched it, the state changed the law, and it's now every 5 years. So the last 4 revaluations that resulted in the commercial and industrial sector picking up a greater share of the grand list. Their values have always gone up, and residential values have always gone down. So the residents pay a smaller share of the grand list. So that didn't happen this time. That didn't happen. What happened this time, the commercial industrial side is based on primarily their income from the previous year. The residential side is, their value is determined based on homes, the price of homes, what they're selling for, like homes in your area, in your neighborhood, and on the value of the size of your property, what acreage you got, or maybe square feet you got. And all this is evaluated, and then they come up with, each house has an assessed value and a market value. So you're going to see pockets where certain neighborhoods have sold houses and they were just astronomical. And with this seller's market, residential properties went up. And because of COVID, and I hate to say this because I'm not a fan of COVID, but COVID resulted in lower income previous year for the commercial industrial side, and they went down. So when this gentleman told me that his are going up, it stunned me, but me and Paul looked into it, and we can understand. Go ahead and take off now, Paul, on your which side has how much of share of the grand list and what happened.
What has actually happened is I'm sure you're aware, both in your own properties and in your own neighborhood, the residential real estate market started to move very rapidly in the summer of 2020. And what also happened as a result of COVID is there were vacancies that started to show up in the commercial market. And so there's been a swing, they've kind of reversed each other value-wise. That residential boom has continued. I think that it may slow down now because of what the Fed's doing as far as interest rates are concerned, and certainly mortgage rates. But the fact of the matter is, we're looking at what was the value of any property as of last October 1st. So we're going back essentially 7 months ago as to when this was valued. What has happened is John has pointed out, is there's been this shift for the first time in recent history, in the last probably 2 decades, that the residential properties are picking up a greater burden of the grand list than the commercial side.
So even with no changes to the property, no changes, no additions, they didn't put in any swimming pools and stuff like this, the residents are going to pay a higher share. And that's to be expected. So I don't think we're going to be adding a lot of cost to the mayor's budget. If we do, we're going to be putting it right on the backs of the residents. And I just wanted you to realize that before we got into discussions. You got any more to say on that? Any questions on that? If anybody has?
I don't have, I have a comment more than a question.
All right.
Are constituents going to be aware that this was a state, due to the state regulation, how we have to reassess every 5 years, and that COVID impacted businesses because historically Facebook and other social media, this will spread like wildfire, that it's our fault. when in reality it's not.
Yeah, the alder, look, neither the alderman or anybody else has had any, this is the way it is. It's set in statute. And you bring in a third party to do the revaluation. They come in and do, they don't know us, they come from out of a reputable firm. They work all over the state, doing it for many towns, and this is the way it came out.
I'd also like to add a comment. I mean, I think that, to your point, Chris, maybe some kind of quick communication, because that explanation kind of cleared up a lot for me as a resident. So, even if we could put it out to the residents on our website or something like that, just say, we understand that this happened. We had to reassess this year. We know it was really not the best year to do this.
Right.
But because we had to do it, this is what the end result is because of, this is how they assess things.
Right.
Yeah, so where's Ned Lamont and all of this? He should be putting out some kind of a memo publicly because he's all over his commercials saying he's lowering taxes.
The other thing that didn't help, back in October when they did this, they sent out to every homeowner a sheet, and with the sheet of where your assessment is this year, they send out also a letter with telling you what they're going to be doing and that you have the right to appeal. This is what they come up with, and you have a right to come in, and they were in the room 104 here for a week. Two people from the company, and very few people came in. Very few people, very few. But of course, nobody anticipated what was going to happen. Nobody anticipated that COVID would have knocked the revenue so bad that they would have impacted and shifted the burden, the tax burden, over to the residents. It's stunning. I mean.
Well, and also I think what might be helpful too is if people have that picture and they know that it's going to be reassessed again in 5 years, then maybe they can feel, hopefully it kind of balances itself back out and things kind of get back into a
Normalization.
Right. That in 5 years, then, your house might not be worth as much, but you're going to be paying lower.
Paul told me that they're locked in, commercial side is locked in for 5 years at that rate. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's bad.
But he also told me that next year you'll get another notice, residents will get another notice, and they can't appeal. They gotta have something to appeal, that they have a basis, but they can sit down and maybe it'll do some good, maybe it won't, I don't know. But this was unfortunate.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, by all means.
When we do that, I don't think we should just depend on a social media or a computer, because we have a lot of residents that rely, just like when we have an election, rely on getting something either in the mail or dropped off at their house.
True.
And if you really want to get the message out, we're sincere about that, we should come up with a small piece that's succinct, it explains it easily, and it's something you can hold on to, because people like to be able to say, now I have it, I understand. If somebody asks anything like this, it's not a matter of, a lot of folks don't get onto the computer to look, they're not going to be on our website, they're not going to be with the social media. I think we have to take a look and make sure everybody's included in this, so, and we should do it as soon as possible.
Well, the problem, one of the problems is who's going to do it and who has the expertise to do it. Because you don't want to mislead anybody. You want to get it right.
Right.
So maybe, Paul, would it be too much for us to ask you and the assessor to draft up a piece and run it by the mayor?
You hear us?
Are you there, Paul?
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said, Bernie suggested that we not rely on social media or Facebook or that sort of thing, but just that the city draft up a notice to the effect that what happened here because during the reevaluation process, and send it to every household.
Right.
Yeah, basically a mailer, something concise and easy to understand.
So what might be a good idea for us to run this by the mayor and see what he thinks, and also if you could draft something, Paul, you and the assessor, and run it by the mayor and see if we can get that out.
Yeah, I think, obviously, the process, and not everyone's aware of it, because we had frankly very few appeals to the Board of Assessment Appeals. We had under 150 residential appeals. We had, I think, 47 commercial appeals. Back in, that's a process that is every year in late January, early February. The Board of Assessment Appeals did their work and reduced the residential properties by just over $2 million by those appeals. The people have the right to come back again next winter on the same thing. This year is gone. If they didn't appeal at that time, and as I said, there were just under 150 residential appeals, they don't have that opportunity again until next January under the state statute.
Yeah.
We can notify, as you say, notify them through social media, on the city website, that the opportunity is there to appeal.
Well, you can also, if you approach this from, as it was suggested, to send a piece of mailer to the home, you could also put it on the city website and any place else to really put a release out to the newspaper.
I spoke to the assessor about that a couple of weeks back. First off, it's not required under the statute because they've already received the notification. Secondly, he's not aware of any other town in the state of Connecticut, and he's probably the most senior assessor in the state that has sent out a second mailing on it. Doesn't say we can't, but no one else has. No one.
Paul, one of my concerns is historically, this has never happened. So what I think the reason there weren't that many appeals were because historically they didn't think this was going to happen to them. So maybe we do need to, discuss that with the mayor, if you would, and send out a mailer, even though other towns aren't doing it. I think this town kind of are a close-knit community, and I think it's going to be a real shock factor.
But I think it's also a part of a proactive.
Correct, explaining it, why.
Communications-based flyer.
And then it doesn't look like we're hiding.
Right.
We can do that. I would say that because the window for that to happen, as I say, is in the wintertime. So we probably wouldn't do it until after the first of the year, as far as some notification as to.
Well, I don't think it's based on appeals. I think it's just based on communication.
Yeah.
It's based on, and at the bottom of it, you can say, if you truly do want to appeal, this is your window next year to appeal. Right. But that's kind of like an afterthought. This would be more of an informational flyer of, did your taxes go up? This is why. And, the commercial side and the residential side, and the commercial side went down because this is what it's based on, and the commercial and the residential side went up because this is what it's based on. Yeah. And in 5 years, it'll happen again, but just very, quick, concise, something that like Bernie said, something you can hold in your hand, but it needs to be in front of the community because not everybody's online.
Bear in mind, yes, exactly. But bear in mind also in January, the economic impact of where we are today was far different. Plus, they're coming off of a very strong economy and people were feeling good about everything. Right now, people feel like they're being robbed from every standpoint, whether they go to the grocery store, the gas station, now the tax man. And we've always had a reputation for having very competitive tax rate, or if not a low tax rate. And now it kind of looks like, even these guys got me.
Again, it's
And
state.
at least if the old saying, knowledge is power. If we could seize the opportunity and basically seize the opportunity and give out the information, or we could sit back and wait for it to become, holy cow, now what do we do? Let's try and straighten this mess out. I think we're better off being in front of it than behind it.
I'll tell you, maybe since we are articulating what we want communicated, maybe we can put something in writing and give it to you, Paul. But my feeling is this is an anomaly. This year is an anomaly. It's never happened before. And most of us taxpayers felt, we all knew the market was going crazy to sell your house. It was going crazy. My houses were assessed for $275,000, and the house across the street was assessed for $270,000. It sold for $410,000. It went across the street. So we all knew that prices, were up. So when we got a report, it's up, and mine went up to maybe 290,000 or something. I'm not going to appeal that. I didn't put any add any square footage to my house. I didn't put in any improvements. So I just accepted it. But we in a way, I hate to say this, but in a way, we're victims of something that is just the way the statute requires you to do the revaluation, and the economy just put us in a bad position.
It's timing,
Timing,
yeah.
timing, good point.
So since this is my first time going through this process
Yeah, that's
as an
what,
alderman,
that-
I'm wondering, is it possible, is it even allowed to assess different mill rates against industrial and commercial versus residential? That
Paul,
we
can
could
you answer
raise
that?
the residential and commercial rates to, and drop the residential to offset that imbalance?
The quick answer on that is that would be a violation of state statute if we were to go back again. We have to apply, this process is within the parameters of the state statute. And as John has pointed out, it's an every 5-year cycle. This was our turn. There's, 20% of the state is going through the same process or went through the same process. And, there's other towns that are going through it right now. But it's not something that can go
I
back.
get that. The question was, could we assess different mill rates against industrial and commercial versus residential?
The
Not the
answer,
valuation. In the future, whether it's not this year, but in the future, maybe next year, when the mayor assesses, comes up with this mill rate that he proposes, is it possible? The governor's talking about capping auto rates. So obviously it's possible to separate different things out with different rates. So
I think that's a good suggestion. However, everything to do with revaluation and taxation is set in statutes, so we have to.
right.
We have
It's a
to
state-
But
petition
it's
the
a
state.
mill rate.
And
It's a
I doubt that they would take action based on one of 169 towns.
Right.
Does the
But-
statute say specifically you can only have one mill rate in
So,
the town?
so here's one
That's
thing
the
I
question.
could bring up, like the city of Bridgeport or other places where the government, I still own a home there from my late parents. And there's that government cap, if you will. The mill rate would normally be around 55 and it's at 44 because of some federal program. I don't know if there's something like that can be addressed at this level, but Lord knows, I hope I'm not on the cycle for Bridgeport because I'll be paying 20,000 for property tax. So I know there's this is noted about the car tax mill rate cap. There's a property tax cap on residential the homes, it was 44, I don't remember exactly, but it would have, and they put in it, they preface it. I think it's urban areas such as Waterbury, Bridgeport, New Haven. I don't know if other municipalities are entitled to that, or if it's just urban areas with a specific population.
I think what Porter's trying to, if
Yeah, but I
I'm
don't
getting
think that's
it
legal.
correctly, I think the actual question that Porter's asking is it a blanket mill rate for the city? Or
Usually.
can you separate commercial from residential from motor vehicle? Can it be a different mill rate between those?
In effect, he's asking, can you have different?
Mill rate, so.
Mill rates for different categories.
Corporate industrial will pay 22 mils,
We
residential
understand what you're
16
saying, but
mils.
it's not determined at this level, you know.
That's what they call.
But the state doesn't set our mill rate.
That's what they call.
They state the staff, they
Districts,
regulation.
different taxing districts. I don't know.
I
Paul,
think,
you
I think it's worth looking into.
Well, my niece lives at the beach in West Haven. Now, her mill rate is higher than the rest of the city. I know that for a fact.
Because it's a different category?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they also put a view tax on there too, on top of the,
It might be too late for this year, but I think it's worth looking into to see if it's possible to do for future years. That if we can adjust this, if it's a $6 billion total and 4 billion is coming from residential.
what you're
If we
saying.
adjust it that 3 billion comes from industrial and 3 billion from residential, what would that mill rate say? What would that be? And assess those mill rates. You know, something like that to make it easier on the residents versus the corporations.
Okay,
Who-
Anthony,
When he's finished, let him finish.
No, that's just my thought. I think it's worthwhile looking into. How we could fix this problem, make it easier on the people who live here in Shelton.
so Anthony, Anthony's next, but Paul, just before Anthony goes in, can you take the responsibility of looking into this and providing us with an answer?
I will look into it, John. I think one of the things, for example, in the city of Bridgeport, there are some, and in other communities like that, there are some special taxing districts. The downtown area of Bridgeport, I forget what it's called, but there's a separate thing, but they are providing for those people. And if anything, all that does is raise the taxes. The taxes are going to get higher for that special taxing. It is not, and I repeat that again, it is not going to lower anyone's taxes. It will only increase their taxes.
Anthony?
Yeah.
I don't think you're understanding me then, but.
But I think that's just for Bridgeport, so that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I understand, we get what you're saying, but you might not, but we'll ask them.
Let's give Anthony a chance to go ahead.
If I can ask that, no matter where we end tonight on this subject, that when the assessor is back, and we have 2 weeks or so before we make a decision, ask the assessor to give us a half an hour of his time.
I agree.
Paul, you agree to that?
Yeah. Well, the assessor is, I think you know, John, is on vacation right now. He is due back next week. And I know next Wednesday you have your public hearing, but perhaps on the session after that, he could address some of the specifics. He's very knowledgeable on the statutes and the possibilities. I could also add this, he's also the acting assessor on a 1 day a week basis for the city of Bridgeport, and has had experience in many towns in the region. He was the assessor in Milford. He was the assessor in Westport. He started out his career in the town of Fairfield. And so we're blessed to have someone with his experience.
Thank you.
Paul,
So good
Paul,
resource.
what we want to know, yes or no, what we want to know is, can we have an appearance here by the assessor so to answer some of these questions?
I think so, yes. I think you've got a meeting scheduled, I think, is it 2 weeks from today or on Tuesday, 2 weeks from now? And Bill can be, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for him, he's out of the country right now. He can be there.
Thank you, Paul.
thank you.
As you can see, it's a dilemma, a disastrous dilemma. And that's why I thought it was important that I share it with you to make you aware of it, because it, there's an old saying, I don't want to say it on camera, but, you know, it's just, it's not good. It's not good.
What if you just say knowledge is power? Leave it at that.
Right.
Now, going down and looking at, starting to look at the revenues, you received a sheet it's called Adopted Fiscal Year 23 State Budget Adjustments Impact on Shelters. And it's essentially a compilation from the finance department of the revenues that we will receive from the state for various programs. And what I did was, before we got this sheet, I just took it upon myself to go and make up the sheet.
One, two, three, hang on. Oh, yes, sir. That's the stop, please. Sure.
Oh, wait.
John, this is your original. You want the original back? That's your original?
Okay.
And then how do you get it in the other one?
So I thought this, and the sheet that I didn't really get this one until tonight, we just got this one, but I thought this would be helpful. If you look at the, yeah, see, they don't have it on here. There's, you can look it up in the state, it's on their website, but they have something called a tiered pilot, and that's the pilot program. And normally we haven't received very much at all.
They have it on here.
It's in the middle.
It's
Is
in
it
the
on there?
middle. It's called pilot.
Oh,
They
yeah.
didn't, they didn't put tier.
So we got nothing, see, but last year, apparently last year, we got 15,404. And their website says we're gonna get 15,136. I don't know why, but here, in this one, it shows nothing.
Yeah, it's just 15,000.
But that's,
Oh, he's looking at the other one, okay.
that's so minor that I won't worry about it. The next one is important. Adult education. We got 30. All right, adult education, we got fiscal year 22, we got 35,000. Fiscal year 23, we're gonna get 36,995. That's 5.5% increase with adult education. Education cost sharing. Last year, we got 6,851,370. This year, we're gonna get 6,983,295. My phone computer wouldn't take all those numbers, so I couldn't figure the percentage. But it's not a heck of a lot of an increase. Do you figure, what are we spending for education? 75 million? And the state gives us 6 million, almost 7, close to 7. It's not a big percentage of what our costs are, but and they are increasing it very much, 130,000. Now, town aid, that's generally for road work. We get about 505,276. And last year, and that's what we're getting this year, and no increase. LoCIP, which is the local city improvement program, that's about, they're gonna maintain the same amount of money, 270,000, and that does help, that helps us. We, throughout the year, there are capital projects that we, and other projects that are eligible, they have eligibility list with the state, so you check with them and see if something is eligible. If it is, you use it, it's money you can use. It's 270,000 And we do use it, and you can carry it over. So if we don't use it, there's no need to go be frivolous about spending it. When you get something with a good need, we carry over, so I can tell you, I don't have it with me, but we do keep a running list of how much is total is in there, and you can spend as much as you want of what you got. Yeah, it's just a matter of having a good project to do it. Grants for many projects, there's no increase. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what that is. You, Paul, what are many projects?
The OEM grant,
For municipal project, grants for municipal projects,
Municipal projects, okay.
Not many.
Muni.
Many.
Yeah,
Is it muni?
Yeah,
It
it's
says
your name.
municipal project. Would they be part of SEDC?
the municipal project grant, the 584.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a grant that has started, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. We've received, this will be the third year. It's been the same amount of money. It's basically just cash from the state. It doesn't have to be specific towards any one thing. And we have to sign a statement, which has been signed for this year, that we would adhere to all state conditions as far as bidding on projects or stuff like that. The money will come in some point in early June, probably by the 10th of June is in the history on that grant.
Is
It's a revenue sharing grant, essentially.
is there any examples of what we've used it for in the past?
What was that again?
Are there any examples of what we've used it for in the past?
I can get you the information that identifies the grant and what it can be used for, but it's mainly just, it's a revenue source which is used for general operating expenses within the budget.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
as
you
I-
could give me a copy of the parameters and what we've used it for, and that would
Many,
be great.
is it in the revenue, listed in the revenue side of the budget? Well,
Right.
let me ask it again. Is that 584,121 listed in the revenue side of the budget?
Yeah. On the second page of the revenue sheet, account 001-0000-331-37-00, hold harmless municipal project grant. And it's been there, as I say, for roughly the last 4 or 5 years.
So my point is that, and the reason I broke this out, and the reason that finance broke it out for us is so that you could see it's part of the revenue side of the budget. It isn't all of it, but it's part, and you can pick out what the state's doing and what they're giving us with grants, et cetera. Okay, so now you want to go down the revenue side of the budget. You notice well, why don't you take us down through the accounts and what they represent? Because we've got the.
Where do you want me to start?
Revenues.
Audit unassigned, that's that.
300-10-00.
Well,
It's just
you've gone over the state accounts, which are pretty much unchanged. I mean, there's a slight increase that we see in what the state is going to give us on ECS. The one thing that I would point out to you on the educational cost sharing grant, the Board of Education has the right, which they did this year, to take 2% of that money from the state. They sent a letter in June every year asking to do that. And a year ago, they didn't do it. This year, they did do it. And we have no control over that. The estimate that we have in this year's budget is less than 2% because I anticipate that the Board of Education will again request from the state the 2%. And again, the city or the Board of Aldermen has no control on that matter.
So are you saying in effect that of the $6,843,629 that shows that in that grant that the city of Shelton is going to receive, that whatever 2% of that is going to the Board of Education, and we shouldn't count on it for revenue? So does this amount of $6,849,000, is that not the amount that the city's going to have to spend?
If you look at the budget sheet, we've estimated $6,843,000. In fact, the state's going to pay us $6,983,000. So there's approximately just under $140,000 or 2% of the total grant.
What you got there is the net, the
Yeah.
number, okay, this is the net number. Okay, that's just, then we won't worry about it. That's good.
And again, we have no control on that. The line on Board of Ed reimbursements, this is the line which is for construction grants. That was reduced we reduced it for the coming year because we anticipate, and we've been working with State Representative Perillo, Superintendent Saranich and I have been on the phone with the state virtually daily for the last month on monies that are owed the city on the old Shelton High School project. Mr. Alderman Simonetti knows that well since he chaired that committee. We think we're going to get some this year. We're not 100% certain, but it's a big number. And that's what that would represent. Plus the fact we have begun to get back some audit money. If you look at it, we received $51,000, which is money back from the roof project at Sunnyside School. Going down the list, there's other smaller grants there. The veterans exemption, as you can see, that's down from last year, frankly, because fewer veterans are taxpayers, and it is reduced fractionally. It's not a big number. The tiered MSRA grant is what the state refers to as a payment in lieu of taxes. I thought originally, and I was wrong, that it was a payment for the state park up on the river. But this is just something which started out last year. We didn't have it in the budget. It's in this coming year's budget, and we will get that money from the state. The other major ones, some of them decreased. Telephone property tax grant. This is basically a personal property tax primarily paid by AT&T and Frontier is the primary carriers in the town, and it's on the equipment that they have in the town. Again, it's something that we have no control over, and one of the problems is we don't find out what this number is going to be until roughly around the 1st of March of every year. as you can see, that number decreased. Last year, we got 103,000. And this year, we're going to receive 88,000. And it's an estimate. If anything, it's probably fractionally high, but again, it is something that the state, we get from the state, and nothing more. Pilot housing is a grant from the Felton Housing Authority, which is usually paid around this time of the year. And again, it's an estimate. John touched on the number earlier.
Paul, hang on, hold on a second, Paul, we're getting caught, lost.
You got me confused. You're going all over the lot, and I can't follow you. And so as a result, you're blabbing away there and it's not coming through here. So get us focused before you start yakking away.
Yeah,
because-
Paul, just say the line number for people. I think it's easier.
Yeah, it might be helpful, because we're looking, where the hell is that account? And, you know, you're talking away and we must have, is anybody else, follow?
Do you have the budget runs in front of you, John?
Yeah, we get.
Well, we have the budget
We
on
do.
those, yeah.
Yeah.
We're already on the budget.
But that's, yeah.
Right, we're looking at the revenue side.
Yeah, well, say what number are we looking at? They're all numbered, each one.
Yeah, just give us the line number, the middle numbers.
Explain where that money comes from. I mean, it's taxpayer money, we understand that.
Yeah. No,
Why would we reduce it, or why would it be reduced or increased? You know, we had years when we had larger growth in buildings, so our building fees went up, and sometimes we raised the fees. So our building department took in more funds, you know, that type of thing. Why would the mayor say it's going up, and why would he maybe add to it? You know, and what the board, why the board and block heads if they're not at this point.
yeah, some of these things are grants and they're established. But some of them are, we have control over, for instance, just as you mentioned, the building permits and stuff like that. That's within our power to change. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference when you're talking about, you know, we're talking 129 million here. And we bring in 100,000, so it's not going to make a huge difference, but we should be aware of that. So when you go through, tell us what account numbers, and let us get on it and then explain this. Go ahead. Okay, Paul, go ahead.
All right. I'll try to highlight the major ones, I think, is the best thing, rather than some of the smaller. We talked about the old harmless grant.
Hold on, Paul. I don't think I was with you. I think what we want you to do is tell us what the account number is you're going to be talking about, and then talk about it. So we can focus and get with that line item. So we can. Go ahead, Paul. Nobody ever said this business with 10-second delay was easy, but it's annoying. Excuse me. Go ahead, Paul.
All right. The one grant, the OEM director grant, that is a grant. No good. Account number first.
Oh, account number first, okay. They all have the first 7 digits, they're the same, so I'll just give you the last 7 digits, if that's okay.
Just give us the third, usually the third column of the digits are what we need to
Yeah,
reference.
What page is he on?
I don't know.
Page 2 right now.
Okay.
331 3600.
3300.
360.
3313600.
Okay.
Middle of the page 2.
On the second page, halfway down the second page. That's a grant from the state, which is a reimbursement for a portion of our emergency management director's salary. And it's pretty constant, as you can see. And it's roughly
about little less than 30% of his salary is paid for by the state.
Okay, we have no control over that. That's the state.
We have no, well, if he were to earn, if we were to pay him more, we might get fractionally more, but it's
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna make a difference.
minimal. It hardly it pays to talk about it. Talk about the ones that are significant. Talk about
Okay.
what we can influence.
Let's go down to building permits, which is 341-10-00 building permits. 610,000, which as you see is, again, these are estimates. But as you can see, we've only not reached that number for this year yet. Now, granted, springtime is a busy time for building permits, but Joe Valero, our building official, has estimated that that's our number. I think part of that is our building fees are the lowest in Fairfield County for any municipality. We're out of 23 towns, we're number 23 as far as rates are concerned. The same applies for electrical permits and plumbing permits, which are right below that. 341-11-00 and 341-1200. Gun permits. 341.13-00. When someone applies for a gun permit, they have to pay just over $158. We keep $70 out of that, $158. The rest goes to the state. It's a 5-year permit. And so our estimate is down from the police department for next year as far as that line is concerned. I'll skip the license and go to conveyance fees. 341.16-00. Yes.
Just, if we go to the top of any of the pages, it starts off the original budget, adjusted budget, year-to-date expenditures. Now, this is the income, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
So what is year-to-date expenditures? Does that mean what we've accumulated so far?
That is correct.
That's just a misnomer.
It really should be, it's not an expenditure, it should be, but the way the accounting system should be.
Year-to-date income, right.
Thank you.
For example, I don't know what number you've got, but on my sheet, which was dated 22nd of April, that figure shows $999,676. That is probably a number that is through the end of March. We've had a very, very strong year in conveyance tax, and the mayor upped the estimate on conveyance tax revenue by 10% to $1,072,500. Frankly, it's on, do we?
Excuse me, Paul, I just want to make sure everybody is on the worksheet papers and not the other writing stuff. Confusing for people.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give an example. What's a conveyance fee?
Conveyance fee, we get 25, quarter of 1% of the value of the sum. Someone sells the property for $500,000, let's say, we collect $1,250. The state collects much more, but the seller of the property pays that fee.
Paul, I have a question. If we could go back to the building permits.
Yes,
Do you have an actual income for 2021? Or the last completed year? Because this seems like way off. is the 700,000 that was budgeted, is that from the year before, and was that?
That's the current year, that's the 700,000 for the current year, which ends June 30th.
What account was that?
No, I know, I understand that, it's the one the year
3110.
before.
Second page,
Do you have that
page
number?
2, 3110. 3341, 34110.
34110.
Please try to-
Affected by COVID, besides everything was shut down.
Yeah.
It was
Sure, I
very,
would just like
Yeah.
to have a frame of reference.
Yeah.
Because
So
because the actual
so the
income
other-
versus what the budget was
Yeah.
is very, very skewed. I'm just curious.
Budget for the current year was 700,000, and we're dragging some of that.
it's a delay.
So,
One
Paul, are
reason-
you saying that 700,000 is what we actually took in for the last completed fiscal year?
I don't have the figure for the last year. I can get that for you as to what we did in fiscal 21. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay,
Don't forget, it's spring. So
Yeah,
things
no.
will- things
We'll
should
start going
picking-
up, yeah.
Things should start
This is
picking
the time
up
of year.
again now that we're in that time of the year too.
right, well, we only have a month left. I'm just
Yeah.
curious as to what happened last year,
Yeah,
Well,
if it was very skewed as well. Because that's one of the bigger numbers.
yeah.
We're looking for 610 next year,
Right,
which doesn't make any sense.
right, exactly. If it's been down,
Why would you raise it? And then and the
don't
forecast.
don't expect that much.
In the forecast, it says it's not dropping, not going up as the interest
Correct.
rates tend to go up.
What's the next one that goes to Paul?
What was that again?
Where you going next?
What's the next line item you want to tell us?
Well, the
about?
next line item I'd like to touch on is 341-1602, land records.
Uh,
This is the fee that is paid through the clerk's office for transfers of titles, and also if someone refinances a house. We cut that number by $30,000. I think we may be frankly realizing that in this current environment, current interest rate environment, people are not going to be refinancing as much as they did in past years. That number, that 300,000 number, might be a little high. That might be optimistic because they're just not going to do it. I mean, mortgage rates, as you know, are significantly higher today than they were last week. And so we're not going to have the advantage of getting that money. Vital statistics, which is 341-17, is basically,
If I just make an observation, Paul, about the land records. You know, sometimes what we have to do, we can't be precise on what revenues we're gonna take in some areas. And if you plug in 300,000, what you gotta think about is that it could be significantly less. But if you start lowering the expectation, then you're gonna start lowering some expenditures. So, you know, it's got a balance. So generally what we've seen over the years is that we have some accounts that we don't realize and you can see it in the current budget runs, that we're not close to realizing what we anticipated. And then some other ones were more than realizing what we anticipated. So it balances off kind of. Thank you. Go ahead, Paul.
vital statistics. That's basically three major categories there. Birth certificates, marriage licenses, and death certificates. And again, it's an estimate. It's not a huge number, but that's what it is.
Concentrate on the accounts that we have some control over, like.
Right. Planning and Zoning Commission receipts, account 341-18-00. This is an estimate received from Planning and Zoning Director Alex Rossetti. He thinks, and I don't know what they've done with their fee structure, they have been taking in significantly more money than, and as you're well aware, there's a lot of zoning activity, so that can be addressed. The others going down that page are, not huge numbers. And I don't know if there's anything specific that anyone want to talk about until we get down to police private duty, which is line 351.10-00. We've increased that amount by 5%. As a result of the new police contract, the fees for private duty, and these are primarily paid by utility companies, private construction companies, to a much less limited extent by the city itself, but it is reimbursing us for the cost of having a patrolman on duty and directing traffic on the scene. And also a small fee, which we also increased fractionally, if there's a car out there. If there's a city police car out there, the company who has it is paying us $25 an hour for the car to be there. Obviously, it's not moving much, but sometimes they're burning a lot of gas, and that's not cheap anymore. But that is basically, that account really becomes a wash because we have to pay the policeman, and additionally, the major other cost of that is we have to pay close to 25% for the contribution to the state municipal employees retirement system for the police officer. And as they said, we've just increased the hourly rate on that as a result of the new contract. I'll flip the page again further.
Page 4.
I will point out the account 351.19-00 municipal shared services, 65,000. We had that at 115,000 last year because we anticipated that we might be taking over the tax office for the city of Derby. That hasn't occurred. We're still doing the work for the building department for the city of Derby, and they pay us 65,000 for that, as they do also for the animal control, in which they pay us 52,500 annually for those services.
Right above it.
It's
Okay,
that
I see.
Yeah.
Right. Daily student transportation, I think you're all well aware of. That's basically just the fee that is within the. It's a wash basically because of the. It's something that the Board of Education pays to us. The other estimates they have right below that for student field trips and athletic transportation are numbers that come from their budget. Those are Board of Education numbers, and that's where we are. Want to move down to the page further to 371.11-00. If you read the front page of this morning's Wall Street Journal, you're well aware that the Fed has increased interest rates. We're going to earn more on money in the bank. We've been tight on that. We're probably going to, this year we had the figure of 25,000. We will probably pass that amount, frankly. And the mayor upped, we originally had it at 50,000. He upped it by 25,000. Frankly, right now, with what interest rates are doing, I'm very comfortable with that. I don't want to go too much about that, but, you know, it's an account that basically tripled this year over, or next year over last year. Community center receipts, account 381.12-00. This is an estimate, as are the next two items from Ron Herrick, the Department Director of Recreation, as to what he feels. And there's roughly, there's a fairly significant increase in that account. And it's really because of, hopefully COVID is behind us and that people will again start participating in programs at the pool or at the recreation center. And there seems to be every indication that that is happening. That there is increased involvement, and that's the good news. Other major accounts. I'll turn to the next page. Sale of recyclables. This is an account 381.27. This is an estimate from Paul DeMoro, who's forgotten more about this stuff than I'll ever know. And
127.
it's working. You know, we're in the forefront in the region as far as this is concerned, and the whole recycling has paid some dividends, and he's estimating increased revenue on that for next year. A lot of the other ones that are in the following pages are leases and on city properties, the post office, at the community center, other facilities, individual residential homes, and also people who are paying rent at the Belden Center, community theater, United Way, etc. We're down there. The final major one that increased significantly is the sale of city assets. The final page, count 381-44. The mayor anticipates the ability, which you folks will be involved with, of selling some property, and that's where that money would go into that line.
Paul, is any of the sale of city assets, is that going to go to this year's bottom line, or is the 25,000 where we're going to stand, or does it just depend on when the final sale goes through?
Join the meeting.
Which one was that?
Sale of city assets? We
Sale
have
of
a budget of around 400,000 and we're at 25,885.
Yeah, he anticipates some, and the 25,000 really has been received as sale from older vehicles that we've been able to dispose of that were of no value to the city at this time. But what he anticipates is the sale of real estate, which would be a significant increase there.
Right, but is there an anticipation of any more coming to this year's budget?
I'm not certain. I don't know where he stands. There's some property down on Canal Street that I believe he's close on, but I'm not certain as to the timing.
Paul, can I make a request, please? Is there a way for us to get an estimated versus actual income worksheet for, I would like to say, like the last 5 years? because I'd like to go before COVID, but I'm just curious. as
For
to-
a five-year run on it, you saying?
Yes, please.
We can put some. We can put something together on that.
Okay, thank you.
What did you say? I didn't hear it.
I'd like to see
No, what did he say?
he'll put something together.
Let me ask you what impact that would have. When I say impact, there's a lot of accounts that come and go, like personal, like sale of property. We will bring in, let's say $500,000 from sale of property. That's 1 year only.
Correct.
So if you're doing a 5-year look, you know, you got ups and downs. You gotta know what happened. It's gonna be misleading, but see what you can do.
We understand that, John. It's just being new to the process here. It's better, it's easier for me to get a feel for everything that I'm looking at. If I have a couple of years to go back and say, oh, okay, I see what they did here and what they did there and how the flow goes and things like that. It's just more for general knowledge going forward.
Mhm. So the last page here, these, after these leaseholds, these are the properties that we own and lease out, like there's a few homes here, that's what's included in there. Page 6 of the income.
Yes,
What account is that?
on page 6, the houses that are listed here. Team, Living Hope,
Oh,
these, Team
Those are
Living Hope.
development center
Yeah,
that we
Living Development
lease.
Center.
Right,
56 Perry Hill is an actual house.
Yep.
470 is an actual house.
no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't own that anymore.
Okay.
That's where the breeze is.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Soundview Avenue is the, Soundview Avenue.
yeah, there's a house.
There's a house. on
Yeah.
Soundview. Yeah.
The house on the open space property.
The public art, that's
That's where
right.
the garden is, right?
Yeah. The Valley Regional Adult Center, that's at the, again, at the
Development center.
the Belden
It's a
Center.
development center.
Right, Perry Hill Road, nothing. 27 Old Town Road is a house, I believe.
Yep,
45 Grove Street is a house.
yes.
That's newly remodeled, so that's why not much coming in there.
That was when we just finished remodeling in the last month or so.
What is a fund name and fund name? Those are just.
They're old accounts that just carry over.
And Perry Hill Road, we don't own anymore?
What's the story on Perry Hill Road? Anybody have that?
I thought we still owned it, but,
Oh, we did too.
yeah.
The Perry Hill Road is up on the top, where it's 50 Hill Perry Hill Road. The third one down right below Living Hope Church. Living Hope Church is renting space in the Belden Center.
Right,
I'm referencing 381.48.
38148. I see what she's looking at.
Yeah, there's the other Perry Hill that we own.
Again, that's an old account that was there that, you know, we have some.
There is a, that's right next to the intermediate school. And there is a house in there that we own.
56.
56.
It's 56 Perry Hill.
That's the third one down.
The third one.
Yeah, it's,
38143.
Yeah, 40.
Well, maybe,
That could be an old one.
Yeah.
maybe, I'm just thinking out loud now, maybe that could be the, we used to, there's some classrooms. we used to
The
do
portables?
classrooms.
Oh, the portable
classroom.
Portables.
I'll bet you that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, we used to-
Portable
we used to-
classroom.
We have rented those out for a while.
We
so-
were leasing that building.
To a daycare.
And nobody's leasing it now.
It
so
wasn't a
that's why
school
it's
project.
zero.
Okay.
There's
Here it
potentially,
is, yeah.
it's potential revenue if we can lease it.
Mhm.
How do we do tonight, John?
I think, I think we got through that. Most, remarks.
Hey, Paul, I just have a question. There's two items. There's no dollar amounts in them. I don't think that there has been. No, Anthony talked about that one. I see on page 2, the old 331 .23, it says match and tuck with key fund. We ever have money in that?
You mean the money is coming from the
Yeah.
casinos that goes to the schools and things they never, no, you're not gonna see it.
No, I'm just saying, there's nothing in it. I don't think we ever had anything in it.
381?
Yeah, because all of the gambling money was supposed to originally go to education.
Yeah.
It went to the
Well,
general.
no, the money from the slots,
The slot, you're right.
slot machines.
The slot
I was in
machine.
Arizona, I heard that.
I'm just trying to ask the question and see just why that is even still there. And then the 470 Howe Avenue, that's, we had sold that building and that's where the Breeze Restaurant is on Howe Avenue.
That was the old police and
Right.
fire station. Yeah.
Did-
Now I understand.
But can we just take those out as a matter of housekeeping,
Yeah, let's explore it.
can we take those lines right out?
I don't see why not.
Well, I'm asking Paul.
I give you
Yeah, well,
permission.
Paul, can you hear us?
You're talking about Howe Avenue?
Remove 470 Howe Avenue from the.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was sold, in the last fiscal year, prior to June 30th. I can't give you the exact date, but, we picked up, I want to say 270,000 on it.
Yeah, that's what we had sold it for, right?
That's what we sold it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Okay.
They didn't,
Drainage,
the mortgage a couple of years. But they own it now totally.
all right, now. There, for the time being, we'll move off of the revenues and start with the expenditures.
Okay,
You guys tell me when you want to stop.
we go to 9:30, yeah.
You wanna stop?
Are you serious?
9:30.
Well, 10,
It's 9:30 right now.
Yeah, I
7:30.
can't stay.
I will say though, that Ray O'Leary is kept very calm all over this whole thing.
Okay, so did you want to cease at this point?
We got through one section, plus you got through the other page, the
So now-
6-year capital outlay. So,
So it's a good break point.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right, so we'll call it a day. All right, so you got a call for your adjournment.
Can I just ask, do we do these remotely? Have you done this remotely like this in the
No,
past?
This is the first time.
This is very frustrating.
This
This
is
horrible.
absolutely frustrating and irritating and.
The,
We have to learn to do it.
the A&T workshops, these have been absolutely so frustrating to try to get through this and understand what's going on.
No.
Yeah, we never did it. This is all post-COVID and.
Paul's gotta learn to talk faster.
He's relocated, so.
It's the delay.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the only way
We don't have the best technology. Actually, I think
Yeah,
we were all on.
very
it
accurate.
would work better than
And
this
he
way.
knows, he puts the budget together with the, with the.
The systems are perfect here.
We'll work through it, I'm sure. The shop racks were
All
tough.
right, now wait, let's get the agenda, when's our next meeting?
The public hearing.
The next meeting is the public hearing.
Okay, Wednesday.
Wednesday of next week. And then Thursday of next week, we have a regular board meeting.
Mhm.
And the agenda, everybody's got their agenda for that in the envelope. I understand.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got all the information, Teresa's.
Somebody's got to
trying to get
take
us
the
all.
red.
Is the public
But
hearing?
I have to agree.
I can take it, but I
It's
understand.
Is
wonderful to
Jeff
have
come
a
in there.
believer.
Sure, he's a font of knowledge, but
Yes,
the situation the way it is.
Public hearing, we just listened.
Okay, so a motion would be in order to agree on tonight's workshop.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so ordered.
Aye.
We don't want a discussion on the motion to adjourn.
We didn't need any.
Motion passes.
So John, next week.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul.
I'll try and call in on May 12th.
Yes, yes.
The full board meeting, I'll be in New York,
Yeah, well.
and I'll be in the car,
Okay.
probably.
Well, yeah,
Well, I don't want to be excused, I want to try and call in,
all right. Okay.
unless, I have a client review for 9 hours, they'll sometimes go longer.
Was
than
the
that.
rental on the DVD?
Yeah, called them about 20 hours.
At least it's probably-
Chris has this.
I have this package. Bye.
Ray, see you tomorrow morning.
Yes. What I got sent.
The convention. I like the idea.
That's what I want.
I'm thinking something.
They push everything the same. I got a 4 o'clock leave tomorrow morning.
He called.
That's gonna hold people in one house.
So I go, what's up, John?
At our conference, and then come back.
Don't forget. you have this-
I have the button duty.
Yeah, Dan said, oh, you weren't here, he goes, is he coming? I go, yeah, he's coming.
Right here, the guy go.
I called him this morning, but John answered his call.
You're Indiana.
Here at 4 o'clock.
You're gonna call you,
He called me.
Indiana.
Okay.
I left my phone at night. You know, what was in the car?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a hot
And if you
potato.
know what I'm working with, you get it better.
Okay.
See you tomorrow, I'm sure. We'll see you.
What time are you heading?
4 o'clock.
I gotta go shut the button.
What time are you heading?
4 o'clock. in the morning.
Oh, you know.
Because after go to Rhode Island, finish class at work, then come back. I gotta home, put the snack bar together now.
I gotta go shut the button.
But it's also difficult when the question is not.
I'll see you Saturday.
When is the answer to your question?
You betcha. Come with bells on.
Anthony, where's Anthony? Anthony,
Yeah.
put the book back,
Leave it right where it is, tell me about it.
think so?
Yeah.